Hey everyone, welcome back to Going All In with God, a podcast by Simply Stretch. I'm so excited for this episode today. I know that you guys are going to love it because we have our very first guest here, the one, the only, Lily Miller.
Hello, everybody.
She is my sister in Christ and my sister in real life, too. So it's the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, Lil, tell us a little bit about yourself, little testimony, what you've walked through with God so far.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm Lily. I'm Sally's older sister, but barely. We've grown up together, so obviously very close. Last two in the house, so that always helps for the relationship.
Yeah.
We grew up with God, so we've always had God in our hearts from a young age. I guess my testimony is kind of a boring Midwestern testimony, but it's a good one nonetheless. But yeah, kind of grew up with God in our lives and really started taking it seriously. I feel like once you move out of the house a little bit, it's kind of like your time to shine, right? So the time that you work on yourself, and that's when I really grew close to God and knew that I wanted to have like an individual relationship with him instead of just a relationship in like our family. That was our family identity, right? So I would say probably grew a lot closer to him out in South Dakota where I went to college. Went out there for nursing. Found a church that I really, really loved out there. It was awesome and connected with it right away. Our older sister, Melissa, also went to college there, so we did a couple like small group kind of stuff and really dug in a little bit deeper to the meaning of God and following God. And so, yeah, got close out there for sure. And then I met my husband out there as well, who was also a very divine Christian and knew a lot. Immediately was attracted to his relationship with God and how much he knew about him in the Bible, and his relationship was just so strong. So it was really cool to like get to see that in a college kid. Was very unexpected. I never thought that I would find that out there, but God obviously put him in my path, so that was very cool. He was definitely someone who pushed me to be closer to God even more than I was already, searching for him and wanting him in my life. So that was very cool. He surprised me on that one. I always kind of figured I would be the one pushing for God to be in our relationship.
Yeah.
But then to find a man that was like knew more than me and intimidated me that with like his knowledge, it was very cool to jump into that, especially in a college setting.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that's so common for like the women to feel like they have to be the spiritual leaders in a relationship, but like that's just not what the Bible teaches either. Like, but I think that's the idea. Like, it might be, quote unquote, more acceptable to society for a woman to be more spiritual than a man. But like, for anyone out there that doesn't have a man yet, know that these guys do exist. And like, they surprise you for sure. But yeah, and even if you're the spiritual leader right away, that was kind of how it was for me and Wyatt. But then as we have gotten deeper in our faith, like, he's become more of a spiritual leader in our relationship too. So even if they're not that right away, that doesn't mean they can never become that either. But yeah, I feel like that's such a common thing for the woman to be a spiritual leader, but so cool that like some guys are just like that, and they totally exist and they're totally out there.
Right. You never expect it, nowadays especially. It's just like but they are there, so that's cool.
Even college boys.
I only found one, but I only needed one, so it was perfect.
That's probably on purpose.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can just dive into a little bit of what the purpose of marriage is then.
Yeah.
So today's topic is worldly marriage versus godly marriage. And I kind of felt this on my heart a little bit because the world has so much to say about marriage, but marriage is a biblical concept. It started, obviously, with Adam and Eve, and it's biblical foundation. Like, I really honestly don't understand the purpose of marriage without God. Like, other than, you know, some tax benefits. Like, why I don't understand what the reason is behind getting married if you don't have God in it. But nonetheless, just want to compare and contrast. It's just different. It's 100% different. So, and also, I didn't really know what a godly marriage was. I knew the basics of it before I got married, but I didn't know like the mechanics of it and like all the different pieces that go into it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Do you feel like
It's
that too?
yeah, it's like it's a very simple thing but a complex thing at the same time, because God has so much planned for you in your marriage and that relationship with him and your husband, that there's just so much to learn. I don't think we'll ever stop learning. Like, we're so new and fresh in that concept, but yeah, for sure there's like it builds, it keeps building and it changes, and
Yeah,
yeah
100%. Yeah, okay, so we're going to go actually to this verse, Ecclesiastes chapter 4. This is our unity cross, or unity braid from our wedding ceremony. But the very famous Bible verse of a cord of 3 strands cannot be easily broken. So I thought that was a good place to start. Let me just pull this up here. Where is this?
Where is this? Is it even in the Bible?
I promise it's in here, you guys. I just need to find it. Okay. Here we are. So I'm using an NLT Bible just because it's the easiest to understand. It might not be the most direct translation, but I like to understand what I'm reading. So here we are. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. We'll start at verse 7 and go through 12. So Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon, who, when asked for one thing, asked for wisdom from God. So we know that everything that he has to say is godly and comes directly from God himself. And in Ecclesiastes, he's searching basically for the purpose of life and talking about a lot of meaningless things like, you know, your earthly possessions that you can't take with you. So that's kind of the context of this. It says, I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This is the case of a man who is all alone, without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It's all so meaningless and depressing. 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. So you can tell he's not directly talking about marriage in the beginning of this. You know, he talks about a man who's alone without a child or a brother, but it applies to marriage too, you know? We're not meant to be alone. And that verse right there of 2 can stand back to back and conquer. Like the solid foundation that you get in marriage is unmatched.
Yeah.
And like that feeling of being a team and being able to like stand by each other's sides and conquer things, like that's such a powerful feeling.
Oh yeah,
it's such a cool part of marriage.
It kind of like speaks to the fact that when you win together in a marriage, you win together, you know. Like you can't do anything separately. It's almost like I've heard the analogy before that's like it's a 3-legged race. Like it's both of you are together and you're only going to win if you help each other along that way, you know. It's like a huge part of marriage is just helping each other achieve their goals. And like that verse is so perfect for it. It's like you're so much stronger together if you can work together on things. Like you'll end up in the right spot. Yeah.
And I feel like that is kind of the purpose of marriage, is like 2 people can do way more than one person can do on their own, and that goes in all aspects of life. Like, I mean, you could look at it in your career or in your wealth or in, you know, having kids. Obviously can't do that by yourself.
Yep, that needs to.
So you look at those things, but then also spiritually, like, you are going to have such a deeper faith if you are married, because you have another person that you can share all of your intimate thoughts and spiritual revelations with, that you know you don't have to worry about them talking to other people about it. You don't have to worry about whether you can trust them or if they're going to judge you. Like,
right.
You search for that your whole life growing up in friends. At least I did. And you can never find one person that you can truly trust with literally everything.
Right.
Like, even, you know, your friends, even your family, like, there will always be just some part of you. And I think that's intentional so that you can only find that in marriage.
Right.
Like, it's not because they're bad people, you know? Like, it's not because, like, for example, you and I, like, there are some things that I would not tell you.
Right.
And not because you're a bad person, but because I think those are things that God has reserved for marriage.
Right.
And, like, that covenant that you enter into.
Absolutely.
But you can do so much more spiritually because you're so secure together. And that, like, really deepens your faith, in my opinion. So I think that's something special.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add on that verse or not really?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's good.
Oh yeah, the triple braided cord part.
Yeah.
Basically, your priorities are set for you in the Bible. Your number one priority should not be your work or your spouse or your kids. Your number one priority should be God. And then from there, it's your spouse, and then everything else in life. And that's because you need this foundation of God to be able to be strong. Like this triple braided cord, you know, you have to have all three, you and your spouse and God together. And your foundation has to be God. So that has to be your number one priority. And I think that's like super clear on that's how you achieve this strength is with God.
Right.
Yeah.
I've kind of another analogy. I guess I'm queen of analogies today.
We love analogies. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast a while ago, but it was talking about how everyone always says, like, God first, like that should be your number one thing, which is completely true. But at the same time, God should be your center. Like, you know, like say you have an infant, a new infant, right? If that baby's crying in the middle of the night, the first thing you're going to do is wake up and take care of that baby, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not sitting there like, okay, I have to pray first, so just hold on, right? Like, make your baby wait. No, you're not going to do that, right?
Right.
But God should always be at the center of what you're doing. So, like, that infant is crying. Of course, that's your first priority the second you wake up, right? But God should be the reason that you wake up and take care of that infant, because that's, like, his purpose for you, right? So, like, God is the one in your heart and, like, in your mind through everything that you do. Like, you might have something that pops up that you have to do first, but God should be with you on that journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, God is your center. God is your stronghold. Like, he's the one that determines everything that you do.
Right.
Before you even do it, right?
Right.
So it's like, instead of putting him in a list, the list is made because of him.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't have a problem saying, like, God is first because God is first. But, like...
Yeah. I mean, you even just look at your work week, right? And if you look at the sheer hours, like if you were to class all of your hours to God, work, your husband, whatever, obviously work is going to come in number one for most people.
Right.
Like when you're working 40, 50, 60-hour work weeks, that's your time. Like
Right.
it's that, and then it's sleep, and then, you know, God or your spouse or however else. And that doesn't necessarily mean that work is your number one priority.
Right.
It just means that's what you have to do in that moment. Like just what you just said. And yeah, so it's not like your time is a direct indicator of your priorities, but I think it's your heart posture towards things. Like I know that I don't put work first, even though that's where my hours are, because my heart posture doesn't put work first.
Absolutely.
Like, God is on my mind throughout the entire day. Mm-hmm. So I know that that's where my priority is at. Because like you said, it's God-centered. Even if you can't spend 50 hours a week in prayer with God.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As practically no one can.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I mean, to that point too, I do pray a lot during my day, you know, and the more that I take my time in the morning to do my Bible study and stuff, then I think about it way more throughout the day because I'm starting my day with that. So then, I don't know, there's just something about starting your day with it, so then it's it's the main thing on your mind throughout the day, and then I just think about it way more. But
yeah, absolutely.
So another place that I wanted to talk about was in Song of Solomon, chapter 6, which, as you may or may not know, Song of Solomon is very steamy stuff. It is. If you like love poetry, that's where you want to be at.
That's where you want to go.
Song of Solomon. And there's so much debated about this book and why it's even in the Bible in the first place, because it doesn't appear that they're married at the beginning of the chapter and they're still lusting over each other. But I think the main thing that we can take from this is the beauty and love that God created. Mm-hmm. Like, any way that you want to look at it, these two people in this story are in love, and their way that they talk about each other is just so powerful. Yeah. And me and Wyatt recently went through, like, needing to change up how we talk to each other and at each other and about each other, and like changing into more of a softer personality. And for me, and like, you know, even if you're joking with your spouse or something and being sarcastic, that was, I mean, you know, you were still in the house when me and Wyatt started dating.
Yeah, I wondered from time to
time. Fun fact, everyone thought we were going to break up because we were so mean to each other.
Absolutely. That was main concern.
Yeah. So we were very, very sarcastic with each other. And it was fun. And like, it's because we were friends first, and that's how we built our relationship. So I think that, yeah, that's where it came from. But now that we're married, we're moving into more of a place of, I think we need to leave sarcasm behind. And that's hard because, you know, it can kind of become part of your relationship. But at the end of the day, we stop doing it. You know, we try our best. And you feel so much more loving when you actually stop to think about the words coming out of your mouth. Even if they're a joke, they still mean something, right? So something like, you're so dumb, you know, laughing at them and be like, oh, hi, you're so dumb.
You're the worst.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Like, you're still saying it, and there's something about your speech, like you come into agreement with stuff, and you speak things out and you speak them into life. So moving into more of speaking life versus death, and then also applying that back to Song of Solomon here, the way that the woman and the man talk to each other in this passage is, you can tell they just speak so highly of each other. Yeah. And like, they're chasing after each other, and like, that's what I want to be. So not that you can't ever joke around with your spouse, but it does matter what you say. And I think shifting the focus from like, oh, I can't be sarcastic, to, oh, I want to talk about my husband in a loving way, and I want to talk to him in a loving way. So it's not what you can't do, it's what you should do.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Looking at it that way helps me a little bit. Okay. We're going to finally read this now that I've rambled on for a while. So, Song of Solomon, chapter 6, we're going to start at verse 4 through 10. This is the most non-steamy passage I could find in here. So, it's starting with the man talking. You are beautiful, my darling, like the lovely city of Tirzah. Yes, as beautiful as Jerusalem, as majestic as an army with billowing banners. Turn your eyes away, for they overpower me. Your hair falls in waves like a flock of goats winding down the slopes of Gilead. Your teeth are as white as sheep that are freshly washed. Your smile is flawless, each tooth matched with its twin. Your cheeks are like rosy pomegranates behind your veil. Even among 60 queens and 80 concubines and countless young women, I would still choose my dove, my perfect one, the favorite of her mother, dearly loved by the one who bore her. The young women see her and praise her. Even queens and royal concubines sing her praises. Who is this, arising like the dawn, as fair as the moon, as bright as the sun, as majestic as an army with billowing banners? Man, just to even hear a guy talk like that, you know? And yeah, it's just so beautiful. That's basically what all of Song of Solomon is. And it's just the two of them going back and forth talking about how much they love each other. And I just think it shows like how much of a gift love is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so like intimate and meaningful, you know? Like that's not something that you share with each other in a marriage very often unless you like make that a priority, right? So I would never just walk in and be like, oh my gosh, I just love your eyes and love, you know? That's not like my first go-to thing, but it really should be, you know, on your mind and to remind the other of how much you love them and how much they mean to you.
Right.
Like that's a huge, huge part of it. Something that's definitely overlooked a lot in a marriage. I think that's a big part of dating for people is to always like show your feelings and emotions towards each other and what you think about each other. And it's so exciting to like, you know, see what they love about you. But then it's easy to let that fall through the cracks and just forget about doing that as you go on in your relationship and your marriage. And so yeah, it's a really good reminder to like think about saying that to your spouse every once in a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Because it becomes easy not to do it because you're not trying to impress the other person.
Right.
At that point, like, marriage is kind of a finish line in that view.
Right.
Like, you got the guy, you know, you locked him down, you got the ring, like, you're good to go now. But really, like, that's just the start. And yeah, that magic can be lost really fast. I mean, like, take it from me. I'm 20 years old and I've been married 1 year. And there's already been moments in our marriage that's like, oh my gosh, are we just roommates? You know? So like, I can't imagine, you know, I don't think that ever goes away in a marriage either. Like at some point, you are partners, you're business partners, you're life partners, you're, you know, sometimes you just get so stuck in the like, go, this is what life needs to be like, and let's just get through this week and get through this month.
Right.
But then that just turns into years so fast. So like treating your spouse the way and seeing your love for the gift that it is, like in that passage, I think is a big point of marriage.
Yeah, for sure. I think it comes into play with like, you know, you ask a million couples what the key to a successful marriage is, and everyone says like reserve your date night, right? Like keep dating your spouse, keep trying to impress your spouse no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so important to still put on that dating lens and like spend time with just you two so you can have that opportunity to share your thoughts about each other, because it's so easy to get caught up in the rush of things and like that just gets pushed to the back burner because it's not a priority. You're like, my relationship is fine, you know, so you don't think about it, but it really should be like a huge priority. I think that's how you last in your marriage. And like you need to keep dating and reserving that time. Yeah.
Do you guys have like a once a month or once a week or whatever that you do?
We have so tried to do that. And you know, we'll make it work for a little bit, and then I feel like it kind of goes to the wayside here and there. But also me and Bradley were talking about that the other day, like how important it is to keep dating each other. And we were kind of like, yeah, we really have been, you know, slacking on date nights. But then we kind of got to talking about it more, and we kind of came to the conclusion that we have a lot of date nights. They're maybe just not labeled as a date night, you know, like we'll have a movie night, or we'll just have a night where we're like laying in bed talking to each other for 4 hours, you know, and it's like, it's just me and you, like we are doing those things. It's just maybe not as much of a conscious effort that we would like it to be, you know?
Right.
I feel like especially in the beginning of your marriage, like it's just you two, you know? So it's like a lot of your time you spend together without other people around. Like there's no kids screaming through the house. There's no like, you know, maybe like we're past the point of like, oh, let's go and see every single one of our friends when it's a Saturday, you know? So it's like we do spend a lot of time just with each other and get that date night in, but it's something we definitely need to keep working on to like really make it a priority for our life, you know? Like, especially with baby on the way, like you got to make sure that you have that time set aside, like set up that babysitter, you know, like we already have our setup for when the baby comes, like it's happening once a month. So I think it's super important to do that, or else it just, your relationship becomes more of a business transaction almost, like it's really, really important to keep that spark alive.
100%. That was something we didn't do very good at the first 6 months of our marriage, was planning date night. And I mean, just planning a wedding is literally crazy. Then you have honeymoon, and then you get back and it's snap back into life. So, and then it's figuring out how to be married too. So, which we had a lot of learning to do because we didn't know much before we got married.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So we didn't do very good the first 6 months, but then I actually found it on TikTok, this marriage meeting idea. And it was like, show up for your marriage every single month, like set a date. So ours is the first Wednesday of every month. We sit down and have a marriage meeting, and it's a list of questions, and, you know, go over your budget. And another thing is go over your calendar, and we put on the calendar our one date night for that month. During our marriage meeting. And so then we can kind of, you know, plan around things, and then it's almost like a little piece of candy when you're looking at your calendar. You're like, ooh, we have date night tonight, and we planned it 3 weeks ago and I forgot about it. But so that has really helped to sit down and, you know, we go through like faith questions, personal questions, both of our businesses. We talk about that stuff. We talk about our budget, like how happy we are with finances. We talk about our sex life. We talk about like literally everything. And then also that calendar and like what to-dos do we need to do as a couple this month. And, you know, do we need to plan any trips? Like we just planned a little cabin trip, just the two of us for
fun.
After we get through Memorial Day and his busy season with his job. So that's so nice too, and that's not something we would have done before. And then the whole summer probably would have went by and we wouldn't have gone. You know, so it's like being intentional. And maybe I'll put it's just a Google Doc of questions that we have. Maybe I'll put that in the description for you guys, and I encourage you to start doing it too. Try it out for a month, and if you don't like it, then never do it again. But
that's super cool.
They're hard-hitting questions, and they're honestly hard to answer in the beginning of our marriage, but now it's like it forces you to pray together. It forces you to talk about the awkward things like sex. Talking about sex is hard in the first little bit of your marriage.
Absolutely.
So it forces you to do those things, and it's so amazing. And then you get that date night on the calendar too, which is so helpful.
Absolutely. That's super cool that you guys do that. That's definitely
cool.
We'll look into your description notes after.
Oh, good.
I'll use that next month.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Yeah. So I think it's just about being intentional, whether you do, you know, the once a month date. If you have more time than that, then do a date once a week. But if you're just 9 to 5 in it, like, you have so much more time. And we just talked about that. Now we both started businesses, and now, like, prime example of him just coming home at 5 o'clock and then leaving again immediately. And we are so sad about the amount of time that we wasted when we were just doing 9 to 5s. Like, we would come home and sit down and watch TV for most of the rest of the night, you know? And it happens so easily because they make it that way.
Right.
And it's intentional that it's addicting, but we wasted so much time that we could have been having more date nights or, you know, just talking with each other, doing whatever. So, yeah, don't waste your time if you do have time with your spouse right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a big one.
Yeah, for sure.
But, okay. I had another little part of Song of Solomon that I wanted to read through in the next chapter. It's the woman talking this time. So, chapter 8, verses 6 and 7 says, "Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm, for love is as strong as death, its jealousy as enduring as the grave. Love flashes like fire, the brightest kind of flame. Many waters cannot quench love, nor can rivers drown it. If a man tried to buy love with all his wealth, his offer would be utterly scorned." And so, yeah, that goes back to the strength that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Like, love being as strong as death. That's just so crazy to compare love to death. But yeah, so you can't shut down love either. Many waters cannot quench love. That was something that was undeniable for Wyatt and I when we first got together. Like, we tried to, you know, push it to the wayside for a little while first. And just no matter how hard we tried, we could not give it up.
Yeah.
And you kind of did the same thing a little bit with Brad at first, right?
Yeah, I did, because I was living my happy single college life, which now looking back, I'm so glad that ended when it did. But, you know, I was very in an independent mindset, not looking for my husband because I didn't think I would find a good one at college, right? So it was definitely something that God placed in my life without me wanting it, you know, and him kind of pushing the timeline, which he seems to do in my life quite often. So, you know, it's like that was God's plan. But yeah, it was definitely me, like, I don't think I want to go on a real date with him. Like, I'm happy by myself, and I'm, you know, like, doing so many other things in life, and that's just not one thing that I want right now, you know? And so, but yeah, when God has a plan for you and when God shows you that love, it's undeniable. Yeah. Like, once I went on the first date, I was toast. That was it. Like, all right, give me the ring. Where is it? You know? It's like, we've been seeing each other for a week and you haven't asked me to be your girlfriend yet. Like, what is going on?
What is happening right now?
Yeah. So that love is so strong, and God, when God intends for that love, it's crazy how strong it is. Like, it's nothing you felt before. Like, you thought you were in love before, and this is like a whole new thing, which I know everyone says, but it's like hard to explain in any other sense, because it's just like, it's so strong and it's so spiritual that it's different than anything else. I think that's what makes it different, is your spirit. Because everyone's like, oh, I can't explain what it's like to be in love, but when you know, you know. And I'm not, my brain doesn't work that way. I'm not that kind of person. Like, I want facts and I want stats and tell me the 4 keys to feeling love. Like, I have a very, I don't remember if it's left brain or right brain, but anyways. One of the brains.
One of them is emotions and one of them is analysis. I'm an analysis person, but yeah, so people are always like, oh, I can't describe it. And I would always be so frustrated at that. But then I kind of got it. Like, it really is indescribable, but at the same time, like, I think that is exactly what you just said. It's your spirit.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the longing that you feel in your spirit.
I think love has a lot to do with, obviously, with God. He's the one that created it, right? And so when you meet that person, you see love by, like, inserting yourself into their life and seeing the cool things that they're doing through God. Like, when I met Bradley, I saw Bradley and God's relationship right off the bat. And he kind of explained to me which was crazy for not even knowing, like, strangers, right? But like we immediately started talking about our relationship with God, and I could see how strong his was and where he was going to be going in life with God. And you like immediately love that person for that relationship, right? So like I'm thinking to myself, like, I want to be a part of that. Like, I want to see where Bradley and God go, because it's going to be good places. Like, I can tell.
That's so
and like
cool.
you just want to be a part of it in a way, you know, like you want to have your relationship with God combined with that, because you're like, wow, how amazing would that be? Like, this is such a crazy relationship, and I don't even barely know him, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really like, I think like love comes from God, and love is so hard to explain, yet when you know it, you know it, you know? It's like that, when you can see their relationship together, it's just like no questions about it. Yeah.
And God is love. So a person that loves God knows love. And did I say that right? A person that knows God knows love.
Yeah.
Is that what I said?
I think that's what you said.
Yeah. So yeah, like obviously Bradley having a deep, intimate relationship with God, then you automatically know what kind of man he is, or not automatically know fully, but because people can say that they know God and they really don't. But if they have a true relationship with God, you know that they know how to love.
Right.
And yeah, they're going to be so much better at it too. And then also encouragement for people that aren't married yet that might be watching this, like, you feel God's love if you have a close relationship with him, and that's what it's like. Like, you know what it's like. You know, so it doesn't have to be this whole mystery of oh, I'm kind of dating this guy, am I in love with him, am I not in love with him, like, should I say I love you back or not, because that can be hard. But I think if you're debating about it, you probably don't love them. And compare it to the love that you feel from God. And if it's anything like that, then you know you're probably on the right path.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. God is so good at loving us.
Yeah. It's an immediate love. You know, you never question God's love for you.
Yeah.
You always know that it's there. Like, no matter what you're going through, like, the worst thing could happen and you're still like, I know God loves me, I just need to figure out why this is happening now.
Yeah.
You know? Even if you question God, you know that he still loves you. And that's like the same type of love that you find in your spouse, if it's your true soulmate from God.
Oh, that is so good. I've never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Like, I've doubted God before, for sure. And, you know, doubt his existence or, you know, other things. And then you obviously come to your senses eventually. But that's one thing that I've never doubted, is how much God loves me.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
God loves you so much that he literally sent his son to suffer this horrible, brutal death for you. And that was a part of him. Like, how... That's like a stranger jumping in front of a car for you to save your life. Like, that's insane, and it's unfathomable, and not something that we would do as humans on earth.
Right.
Like, that love, it just knows no ends. It's so crazy.
Right.
And it comes out in a lot of the Old Testament. God promised to, you know, right before they went into the promised land, said, get rid of everyone else that's here and don't follow their pagan ways, and if you do, you'll be destroyed. And what did they do? Exactly that. But God gave them hundreds of years and so many chances to turn, and he gave them prophets, and he gave them, you know, eventually Jesus to save us. And so even though we've done everything that we can to get God to not love us, he still loves us.
He still does. Yeah, it's crazy. He shouldn't.
Yeah. And we do not give people that many chances on earth.
No. Second chance, you're lucky.
Yeah, literally.
Try thousands.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy when you just like meditate on God's love for you and how deep it goes. It's I mean, we can't even comprehend it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So crazy. But Yeah, well, now that we've kind of set the base of what marriage looks like, a biblical marriage, I want to talk about the first year because we just hit our first year in January. You guys are going to be hitting your first year next month, right?
Next month.
Oh my gosh.
I told my father-in-law this morning, I'm like, yeah, we've only been married for like 8 months. And he's like, try 11. I was like, oh yeah, you're right.
Dang.
Yep, time flies. Whoops. My bad.
Rob
Thanks for the reminder,
your
Rob.
Anniversary better than you do.
That is helpful. Thank you.
That's hilarious. Yeah, but first year, everyone says first year of marriage is the hardest. What do you think about that?
I have such a hard time with that one because we have known each other for so long, right? We started dating, October of 2020, I think. And we always knew, well, I shouldn't say always. I think it was like 2 months and we're like, this is the person I'm going to marry. You know, like it was pretty immediate for us. And I think we've always had that lens on our relationship of we will be each other's spouse, you know? And I think a lot of our first year marriage per se struggles came when we moved in together, which was before we were married. So for those of you that don't know, we met each other at college, obviously living separately. And then we both took jobs out in Kalispell, Montana, which was great, but the cost of living there is insane, like literally insane.
Yeah.
And the only way we were going to make it work was to rent a house together. Yeah. And we struggled with that a lot. And I think we still do struggle with that, like living together before you're married. Yeah, I guess we don't have to go into that a ton, but it was a really hard decision for us. We took it, you know, it wasn't just like oh yay, we get to live together, you know, like this is great. But yeah, I think a lot of our maybe first year struggles came with moving in together, which is supposed to happen after marriage, right? So I don't know. Our first year of marriage, of actual marriage, or our 11 months, I guess, so far, has been great. I don't think there's like a lot of people really put like a doomsday lens on your first year of marriage, and that has not been our experience at all. We did have a few like maybe just new relationship things happen when we moved in together. Like I think that was our biggest part of kind of figuring out our roles together in a household.
Right.
Like, it was a change because I think for one, our stress levels were insanely through the roof because it was so many life changes that happened all at once. We moved, you know, from that college scene of being around your friends 24/7, you know, having a huge group of people around you, having a set schedule, like, you know, studying all the time. And like, that was your whole life, to moving in together halfway across the country from anyone that we knew. Like, we knew absolutely no one there. Yeah. So it was making new friends, and then also moving in with the other gender is maybe a whole podcast in itself because there's so many differences between men and women. And that was like a change for us to figure out what that dynamic was going to be.
Right. And how you were raised and what you're like, you're two different people.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was probably our biggest conflict, was like how to run a household without like feeling like the other person should be doing more. Yeah. Like that was a really hard one for, I think, especially me, because the girl, you know, in most cases likes to have their house cleaner and likes to do some cooking and, you know, whatever. And maybe the guy, like Bradley, didn't care about that stuff as much, you know? Right. So it just wasn't his priority. Right. But we also ran into time things. I was like, first of all, my first nursing job, like as a registered nurse, that's a huge learning curve. Like from school to that, you're like stress level 1000 all the time. Yeah. And so that was a really difficult time with that. And then I also worked night shift, which was terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, that is not how God intended your body to work. So
Yeah.
if you can avoid it, listeners, at all costs, do not do a night shift. But
Yeah.
it's, you know, that's part of being a new grad.
Yeah.
RN, you know, so.
Make that money, I guess.
Yeah. Make that $2 extra an hour totally worth it. Yeah. But so I think there was just a lot. And then behind all of that, even if it maybe wasn't such a conscious thing for us, I think very subconsciously, but we were both guilty feeling for like moving in with each other before marriage.
Yeah.
I think we like our relationship, we acted like it was a marriage, and a lot of our like aspects of our relationship to us was a marriage. But we never officially did that in front of God, you know? So to us, it was a little bit of that subconscious, like, guilt and regret and wondering, like, Bradley could have just up and left me, and, you know, that wouldn't have been bad. We weren't married, you know? But in our minds, we were. So it was a weird dynamic,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I look back at that year and I'm like, that was like the best year ever. Like, we spent so much time together. Our relationship grew like crazy. Like, our struggles was so minuscule compared to the big picture of our relationship.
Right.
And like, I don't regret it. Like, I loved having that time with him.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, like, I still think, despite those like little challenges here and there, I still think when people say like, oh, watch out, that first year of marriage, like, kills a lot of relationships. Yeah. You know, I don't see that at all. Like, if I talk about that year in Montana or this year of marriage, like, both of them have been amazing, and our relationship has grown so much, and there's been new chapters all along the way, and it's like exciting. It's super fun and like cool to see you grow with your spouse and God, and like how cool it is to like know that you can grow that much. Like, you never you like day one of your relationship, you think it's so serious and so like, I can never love this person more. And then the next week you're like, wow, that was stupid. I love him way more now. Yeah. Like, see what 4 or 5 years does. You know? You're like, holy smokes, we're in such a different spot, even though our relationship's still super new. Like, we've been married 11 months. That's like nothing compared to most people, right? Yeah. But like, it's just crazy to see how that love transforms and strengthens, and, you know, your relationship with God only gets stronger, and you learn so much. It's just, it's crazy, and to me, it's just been a cool experience, I guess. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's been that, like, doom and gloom, like, you're gonna have tons of fights, and the devil's coming after you, you know? Like, which is maybe true for some people, but for us, it's been awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, for sure, not saying we are perfect. There has been times when there's, you know, I feel like a lot of those first year of marriage conflicts come up. Yeah. And I think it's the same for a lot of people. Yeah. Like, a lot of people have financial stuff in the first one. Like, you have to combine your finances, which, well, you don't have to, but like, that's how God says to do your finances, right? And so that's what we did. And that's always, you know, a different, you're letting go of that individuality.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
It's a hard pill to swallow, especially like if you're very financially minded. Then it's like, okay, now I have to like trust this person with my finances. And for us, that was pretty easy because we did that together already. Like, even though we were separate until marriage on that aspect, like, we knew exactly everything about each other's finances. Right. Like, that was a part of our relationship that we shared. And a lot of the things that we did wouldn't have happened without each other. Right. So, like, we already knew about where we were at, and pretty much both of us were not anywhere good because college and, you know, whatever. It's like, we're young in college, and you can't make money when you're spending a lot on tuition. So but I mean, that's a huge stressor on people's lives. And then, you know, expectations around the home is a big one, and learning how to live together, like how to keep your own space, but be together still is huge. And yeah, I don't know. I could go on and on about like the little things, but you know, all in all, those things are so tiny and they strengthen your relationship in the end.
Right.
So God helps you through that when you need it, if you ask for his help.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like those are things a lot of couples probably go through the same problems, you know, like me and Wyatt went through the same things, you know, you swallow the pill and you just do it and you combine your finances and you move on. But you have to learn how to be okay with that. And also the whole, you know, I like to keep a clean house and he likes it clean too, but not as clean as I like it.
Yeah, it's a different standard.
Yeah. And so my mind is always at the point of, wow, he didn't put his dishes in the dishwasher. He's so lazy and he just did it to spite me and because I want to do it, when in all reality, he just didn't think about it because he wasn't raised that way. I mean, how many times did we hear, ladies, put your dishes in the dishwasher?
I know, karma. So it has returned.
Yeah. So that's how we were raised. You put your dishes in the dishwasher and he just wasn't raised like that. And that's just fine. It's just different. But, you know, you're two different people. We're all unique and we all have different expectations. And I think what gets you is when they're unspoken expectations. I expected him to put his dishes in the dishwasher without saying it and without us talking about it. So then, you know, it's a point of friction there. And then when you have multiple points of friction, those add up and compound, right? But yeah, so I think there are a lot of the same problems that people go through, and you can do your best to talk about them and say, I'm going to have this mindset about it when I get married. But at the end of the day, I think you just have to go through it. Yeah. And, you know, you can read dating devotionals and books, and those things all help prepare you, but you just have to do it at the end of the day.
Yeah. You're just going to have to go through those growing pains. It's like, just part of it.
Yeah.
It's like watching your baby fall over on their face 20 times. It's like, you just have to let them do it, you know?
Yeah. They'll learn.
Yeah, they'll learn eventually.
Yeah.
But not to minimize that, because that's a huge, like, I had multiple teary conversations over that, and it's like, seems like such a small thing, but I think especially as the woman, then you're like, I don't want to be the nagging wife. I don't want to be your mom. I don't want, like, this is not how I want our relationship to run. I want you to be just as passionate as I am about this.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to come to a, like, even ground on that.
Yeah.
It's a weird change in your relationship, and you get used to it eventually.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that communication part, like you touched on, is huge, because you just expect them to know what you're thinking.
Right.
And I think that's also a huge, like, first part of your marriage situation.
I want to go back to talking about Kalispell for a little bit too, because like, you know, you felt like you felt guilty for living together before you're married, and we lived together before we were married too for, I don't know, after we got engaged. Was it after we got engaged? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah? No? No, I don't think it was, because I moved out of the house in July. I moved out of mom and dad's house in July, and then we got engaged in December. And we pretty much started living together, like, right away. Yeah. And so that is another very strange experience. I pretty much went from mom and dad's to living with Wyatt and other roommates. And that was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge shock.
Yeah. I never got a chance to be on my own. And, you know, I had a separate house and he had a separate house, but we would still stay together all the time, you know? And I was like, the first night that I moved out of mom and dad's, I was like, I need to live by myself for one night.
One night.
So
that's all I need.
Yeah, because he wanted to come stay with me, you know? And I'm like, okay, well, I just need at least one night to myself. And it should have been a lot more than that. And I wish that it would have been, looking back, because I think that guilt comes from obviously when you're living together before you're married, like you're doing things that you're not supposed to do until marriage. But not even just that, you're experiencing your relationship on a level in which it's not mature enough for yet.
Right.
And
right.
it, like you said, kind of is marriage without the covenant, and without that covenant there's no protection, you know, and there's not the full security of being married. Like you said, that person could just walk out. And so it's not that the Bible says that you can't live together before you're married, but obviously you're not supposed to treat a dating relationship like a marriage,
right?
Because it's not,
right?
And I mean, I had conviction about, you know, some boyfriends and girlfriends call each other wifey and like hubby or whatever. And Wyatt called me that one time. And I don't know why, because I wasn't even super, like, I was still pretty lukewarm at this point. So I didn't know what it felt like to be convicted. But he called me wifey, and it was like internal cringe.
You're like, no.
I'm like, you don't get to call me that. Do you see a ring on this hand? No. That's literally
straight
what I
to
said.
jail.
Straight to jail. So, yeah, I mean, we know that it's wrong to treat your dating relationship like a marriage.
Right.
And so I think that's where that comes from.
So hard to do, though.
Yeah.
When you're living together.
Yeah. Because
so hard.
There's things when you live together that you can't get around. Like, you're intertwining your lives to a point where if you break apart, that's going to be so much harder to undo.
Right.
Because if you're living together, probably some of your finances are intertwined, you know? Are you Venmoing each other for groceries every month?
Yeah, probably not.
Possibly, maybe not, you know?
Right.
You're living together, you're splitting rent, you're doing whatever, so your finances begin to get intertwined, and everything, like your spirits are intertwined now. There's just nothing that can stay separate when you share a physical space.
Right.
So, yeah, I really wish that I wouldn't have done that either. I share that with you. But we were a lot less far along in our spiritual walks than you and Brad were, I think. Because, I mean, I've been pretty open about it on this podcast. Like, I was partying every single weekend. We both were, you know. We were obviously doing things that we weren't supposed to do before we were married, and we did not, you know, follow God's laws because I didn't see why they were there. I just didn't want to follow rules, you know. I was sick of following rules, so it was not the relationship that I wish that we would have had for a long time. And so I think the switch for us was getting married was, first of all, a switch, and we were still living in the world when we got married. And so being two lukewarm Christians, we understood, like I said in the beginning, the basics of godly marriage, but we didn't know what it was like to walk through them because we hadn't came back home yet.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So we were still walking in a lot of sin, and that we were separated from God because of that. So, yeah. So I think the first part of our marriage was harder because of that aspect too. Yeah. We were trying to live a godly marriage without God, which sounds so silly, but yeah. So I think that was hard for us. But then after we came back to God, it's been a lot easier, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say easier, but it has been, because there's more security and there's more understanding, and
you can see, not to interrupt you,
no,
but
you're good.
You can see the change in you two, like
really?
Your relationship, and how even like how you present yourself as a married couple has changed so much. Like, it's insane. From the day you got married to now, you're like a completely different couple. Like, just the way that you talk about each other, like you were saying before, and the way that you like explain your habits. Like, I think your habits have changed a lot about your relationship as well, because you can see them bleeding through into your like being now, you know.
Yeah.
You you've made a drastic change for sure. Like, not to say, I think you were a wonderful person before and everything, and so was Wyatt, and you two were obviously meant to be together. Like, right off the bat, we could all tell that. Past the, you know, slight sarcasm dating stage, then we were willing to accept the fact. But like, you've been an obvious match, but now it seems so much more real and serious now. Like, you have gotten to know God in your relationship and like strengthened your relationship together so much. It's noticeable, just so you know. It's very noticeable. So it's very cool to see you like walk through that. And obviously I don't get to be an intimate part of that because it's not my relationship, but it's cool to see, and it's inspirational to everybody that's around you. So that's really cool.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a testament to God more than it, like, obviously nothing that me and Wyatt did, because we were trying to do it by our own strength before, and that got us nowhere, you know? And so now that we've stepped into faith more, you're a completely different person, you know? Like, it's a baptism of your soul. Like, your old self dies and you're a new person now. And so that's cool to see. I didn't really know that it was super noticeable to other
it's
people.
super noticeable. Super noticeable.
It feels super different. But, you know, you kind of wonder, like, you've known me my whole life, obviously. So.
Which is why it's easy to tell.
Yeah.
But I think anybody that sees you guys knows that your relationship is God first. I think there's not many conversations that I have with you anymore that I would like question that. Yeah. Even if I was a stranger, like it bleeds through your speech even, which is amazing. Like, you hear that in the Bible all the time. That's something I strive for. Like, you want to just talk about God all the time. Yeah. But you don't, you know? But now, like, I see it in you in subtle ways where it's just like, oh, well, she just quoted that Bible verse. Like, I know she must have read that recently. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really cool to see you go in that direction, because that's huge. It's really cool.
Thanks.
Something that I want my kids around, which is not what I would have used to say about you. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's even like something that Bradley will say all the time. Like, we'll get off the phone with you two or something, and he'll be like, they're just really good people. Like, it's going to be really, like, fun to have our kids together. And he's always like, yeah, I hope they move close to me, because, like, me and Wyatt, we would really have a good time together. Like, they're just really good people.
Bromance starting.
Yeah, the bromance has blossomed in Bradley's head already.
That's
if it hasn't in Wyatt's. So.
Oh, yeah, it has in Wyatt's too.
Yeah. But no, it's like, and that's just, I probably wouldn't have thought of our relationship like that before.
Me neither.
You know? Yeah. Like, it wouldn't have been like, oh my gosh, that's something that I really like want to keep developing with them, you know? Yeah. It's just like, oh yeah, that's my sister, cool, you know? Yeah. But now, like, it's changed so much between you guys that it's like, almost, we want to be around you because it's like inspirational to us to like, even though I'm the older one, it's fine. But you know what I mean? Like, it's a good example. It's a good person to surround yourself with, because that's what you want to become, right? Like, or you become the people that you're surrounded by, and that's like something that we're like, that's a good couple to have around us. Like, not even because siblings, you know? Yeah. Like, because obviously we've seen in the past that doesn't really matter. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if you're siblings or not. You'll spend as much time with someone as you want to, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, anyways. Kudos to you guys. It was what that is.
Well, thanks. I think the other part of it is we have awesome conversations every single time that we're together. Yeah. And before, I would have maybe talked about God, you know, every once in a great while when someone else brings it up. Then I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm Christian. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I guess I could talk about that. That's one of my hobbies. Yeah.
But now it's like the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Right. And when your heart's full of God, you have a hard time not talking about him. Yeah. And to the point of, I think I'm annoying about it sometimes. Most of my conversations involve talking about God, and I'm not saying this to increase myself, but I'm just saying when you are full of God, that's what comes out. Right. That's what overflows. Right. and being around people that nurture that and can have good conversations. You know, Bradley has so much knowledge about the Bible, which I don't have as much like pure historical knowledge about the Bible, because I'm reading the Bible front to back for the first time right now.
Right.
And, you know, we went to a very topical church, which has its place for sure, 100%. And I love CCC and the sermons there, but it's just a different type of sermons. And so, like, he grew up with that biblical historical knowledge background, and we grew up with the topical, you take that knowledge and apply it to your life.
Right.
You know, so it's just different, not one's better than the other, but then it's good to surround yourself with people that have the opposite knowledge than you. Right. So
yeah, it's amazing. Like, you start talking about something and he'll just be like, oh yeah, this story from the Old Testament in a book you've never heard of, that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm like, I have literally never even heard of that. I have no clue who those people are. Like, it's really cool. That's definitely like something that was part of the like, wow, look at your relationship, that's crazy. Like, which obviously he went to a Christian school up until 8th grade, so that is where that comes from.
Right.
And his church as well was very, you know, good with that kind of knowledge base. But
more scripture based sermons.
But it really does show, like, that's not something I can pull out of. Like, I can't be like, oh yeah, that's a verse that is in my memory bank from 14 years ago, let me talk about that story. I'm like, nope. I don't know, but thank you for telling me. That's great. I have a great resource. It's like Google for the Bible, which is great.
Yeah. And I think that comes to, I always used to be like, remember in, I guess I didn't even get confirmed, but I was in confirmation class for a while, and we would have to memorize a verse every week. Did you guys have to memorize too? I was always so scared to memorize verses. So then when I started reading the Bible again and listening to podcasts and stuff, everybody can just pull verses up.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I can do that. But now, once I'm reading them and living them and understanding the stories behind them, then it's not, you know, just, it's not like you Google, show me a Bible verse about love, and then you just spew one out, you know? It's like you study it, you read the story, and then you remember it. And it's not even like you have to remember it word for word, because there's so many different translations anyways.
Yeah. So as long as you get the basic.
Like, as long as you get it down, you know, it's going to vary from translation to translation. But so it is so cool to surround yourself with other married couples that have a Christian base. Not that you can't be friends with non-Christians, but you have to fill your cup with other people too. Yeah, for sure. What's been unexpected in marriage? Like, what's something that is a part of marriage that you didn't think would be, or something that you thought would be a part of marriage that isn't?
This one is also a hard question for me. I can never answer anything straight up. That's not it's just not how I roll. I would say it's hard because you have this perspective about your marriage and what it's going to be like with a man since you're like a little girl, right? Like, this is my dream wedding, and then you're like, oh, it's just going to be all butterflies and rainbows and nothing bad is ever going to happen, and like, we're just going to be lovey-lovey all the time, you know? So I think, you know, obviously that perspective changes as you grow older and you see the married relationships around you, whether it be your parents or your friends' parents. Like, I think I lost a lot of faith in marriage growing up around some of the adult relationships that were in my life. Like, some of my friends' parents, like, they would be getting divorces and like that kind of thing, and it's like you just see the catastrophic damage that happens in a family when that goes on. But yeah, I would say my expectations for marriage were pretty similar to what my marriage ended up being. I think that I don't know, it's so hard because, like I said, when I met Bradley, we kind of knew that we were going to get married. And I think then just all of my expectations about marriage kind of changed into how I saw my marriage with Bradley. So I think a lot of them ended up lining up because I'm like, I know that this is how this is going to be, you know?
Right.
Like, I know that I'm going to get the love that I need to get, and I know that, you know, whatever. But there are a few things, I guess, I would say are different. One thing that I really had to work on, and I think I'm still working on today, is like marrying for the right purpose, right? So like we married to be in a godly relationship with each other and obviously with God and have that be our whole marriage. But it's really hard to let go of that individual self at the same time. Like it's hard to not think about yourself in your marriage first.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I see myself like just even the smallest things. I'm like, well, he's not doing something that satisfies my every need. Like, and that's just like, then that is a source of conflict for us.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what I should be thinking about first. Like, why am I always trying to get myself what I need first? You know, I think that's a very biological human perspective to have.
Yeah.
It's like you're letting your like human brain take over your spiritual brain.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's definitely something that was different for me. It's like your husband might not always fill every expectation or standard or like whatever you come up with in your brain. He might not always fill that. And I think that's like, you know, a little bit of a change for me to come to terms with that. Because it's like, he shouldn't fill every single desire and need and whatever. Like, that's just unrealistic.
Right.
You know, he would never be able to go to work if that happened. Right. So like, you know, finding that balance of like how you can still work to be good for each other, but also like having that main goal of serving God and like doing things in your relationship for God.
Yes.
Is your main purpose. And then like obviously fulfilling the needs of your spouse is very important to make that relationship work, but that's not your main goal. Like if something comes up that makes that's gonna like help that main goal and you're not able to do something that's gonna fill a tiny need that your spouse has, it's like you have to take God's thing first, you know?
Right.
So that's a really hard one, is to like let go of a little bit of your like self-interest.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. You have to be selfless and you have to move into a servant's mindset.
Right.
Like when we were first married, it was, you should be my servant. Like, you should go get up and get me a glass of water when I don't want to get up and get one. You know?
Right.
You should live to love me and you should live to serve me. And that's that's worldly view of marriage right there. It's, your spouse is not your servant. You are a servant to your spouse. Not because they expect that out of you, but because that's God's call for us. And that is what God models to us, you know? Like the physical act of, it's always disgusting when they do this in marriage ceremonies, but washing each other's feet.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one comedy skit of I think it's John Christ, and he talks about Christians washing each other's feet at their ceremony. It's so funny. It's like, you know, the guy washes the girl's feet and it's, you know, dainty and cute and whatever, slip it out of here, and then the guy takes off his sock and like it's soggy and snags a nail on the way out.
Gross.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Okay, but anyways, the principle is there.
Yes.
You should live to serve your spouse, and that was something I had to get over and another pill to swallow. But then once you come out on the other side of that, it's it's freedom, really. And
Yeah.
that's what Christianity is too. From the outside looking in, people don't understand that you follow God's laws and you serve God not because he is a dictator and because he tells you do this, otherwise you're going to hell.
Right.
No, actually, he told us we don't have to do any of these things and we will still be saved. But we do them out of respect for him because he is our Father and we love him for loving us. And so it is not because we're forced into this. This is something that you choose. Marriage is a choice, just like being Christian is a choice. And when you make that choice, you are choosing to live a servant's life.
Right.
And it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think it starts with the little things like, getting a glass of water for your spouse. And even I made this amazing cup of coffee the other day and I was so excited to drink it. It turned out perfectly. And we got in the truck and we were driving and I was like, oh, I bet he really wants this right now. And it's an internal struggle, even though it's something so stupid as it's coffee.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, no, I'm supposed to serve him. He'll be like, hey, do you want some of this coffee?
Yeah.
And then even then he's like, oh, no, it's okay. I know you want to enjoy it. And so it's not it's the act of asking the other person. And even in that small act, like that shows him, hey, I'm not being selfish in this moment.
Right.
And it goes both ways. Like it's not just me doing that to him, obviously.
Right.
Just the first example that came into my head. But yeah, so like serving each other is freedom and it feels so good. It's just like volunteering, serving other people feels so good.
And once you like get that mindset and you start to come to terms with like, okay, it's okay that I'm doing the dishes right now.
Yeah.
While I'm at home. It's okay. Like, he's not home, I'm doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Once you come to terms with like, this is what's good for our relationship and this is how I can serve him, then that act becomes less of a chore. You know? Like, I think it was so hard for me because I was so career driven. Like, this is my main goal. Like, I was the breadwinner of our family for a while. Like, it's really hard to switch that lens to like doing the housewife things, right? Which, like, obviously I have a weird situation where I'm not always working. So it's like a weird mindset change from going to being like a financial like provider for the family. Obviously he's always doing that, but like switching from that back to like strictly doing housework kind of stuff. It's a really weird transition, but it is like you have to come back to like acts of service. This is what makes this family run smoothly. This is what I can do to help him so he can go to bed earlier and get a good night's sleep before work, and it's like it's hard to change yourself in that aspect. Like everyone always says like you should always like stick to your guns and never change anything about yourself, and that's not how it works in a marriage. Like you come into a marriage and you have to learn what the other person needs and change yourself in little ways. Obviously not like your personality shouldn't totally change, but like your husband might need something from you that you aren't, and then that's something that you should learn to fill, and vice versa. Like he's changed so many little things about himself for me, and like that's such a hard thing to give up. I think that was definitely an expectation that was different for me. Like I never expected to have to like change the things that I changed, like that was never an issue for me. And that's even something that like he fell in love with. He's like, I love that you are like super work driven and like you always want to like be providing and blah blah blah. And like now I'm looking for ways to be home more because that's what he needs now, you know? So it's like even throughout the course of your marriage that might change, and you might have to change multiple times. you know? It's like everything's always melting and molding in different ways, and that's like that's a weird one to come to because the world always tells you like you should just be your own person,
Yeah.
you know, like, don't think about anybody else when you're getting dressed in the morning or, you know, thinking about what your schedule is for the day. Like, it should all be about you.
Right.
And then it's like, no, it's actually okay to, like, change things about yourself for someone if
Right.
that's what they need, you know? And, like, that's obviously such a very intimate, like, Bradley's the only person that I change myself for, you know? Like, I don't do it for friends or whoever I'm around, but that's a weird thing that you don't know you'll do in marriage. It just, like, comes to that after a few, like, you know, disappointing times where you're like, why don't you understand what I'm trying to, like, do here? And they're like, okay, actually, I think this is what he actually needs. So, like, this is what I'm going to do now, you know? Yeah. So that's a weird, I think that's to answer your question, I guess, the expectation that was different for me, I think.
Yeah. Having to change. And I think like, you know, staying true to yourself and following your own heart and all of those sayings are like, you know, don't change yourself for the approval of other people is maybe where that's coming from, which is, right on. But you have to do that in marriage. Right. And it's not because you're looking for your spouse's approval. It's because you are looking to serve them and supporting each other too. You know, just like Ecclesiastes that we talked about in the beginning, you have to support each other, and you can't support each other if you're trying to be on your own. Right. You know? Right. It's like trying to be single in a marriage. Right. You know? So, like, you have to intertwine, and that means your interest gets intertwined, and everything that you do is not just about you anymore. And you guys are about to learn about that on a whole nother level with the baby coming. So another one. So then all of a sudden you're even going to be lower on your own priority list. You know, now you
just keep dropping. You know? You don't get any higher after you meet the love of your life.
But that's such a beautiful thing then. And I think it's giving up a lot of it for me was giving up self-control too. And or not self-control, trying to control things myself. Right. And I had to learn that, like, I can't control whether or not he puts his dishes in the dishwasher. You know? Yeah. I just
you try.
You can try, but you won't. Yeah. I keep going back to that. It's just a good example, but yes, you can't control what your spouse does, and you can't control, you know, what kind of day they have or how they plan their day or what their priorities are. You can have conversations about it and, you know, have your spouse make changes and you make changes when necessary, but you have to give that control up to God. And when you do that, you become so much more free. Like, you don't have to worry about everything because you're not the one in the driver's seat. Yeah. You know,
you're at peace with it. Yeah. Like, that's just, you know, that what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's kind of like God's in the driver's seat and you and your husband are in the back seat. And so God is driving your marriage, but you are supporting it. And you're just along for the ride, honestly. Yeah. And you just have to support each other, you know, like God is above you and he's your head, and you guys are supporting each other in marriage, and that includes changing for each other.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess for us, I mean, so many things. It's so much deeper than what I thought it was going to be, you know? And really, I don't think it was the first year for us either. It was when we came to God again. That's when everything changed. So I have no insight on the first year because our first year was wonky. Yeah. Maybe I'll have some advice in another year. Yeah. It feels like we're just starting our marriage now, honestly. So, yeah. But now that we're with God, it's so much deeper than I could have ever imagined. And I think, to your point of changing yourself, I didn't change myself until we found God again. And then now it's, my mind isn't on me all the time. My mind is on God and on my spouse. And what can I do to take things off his plate when he's busy? And what can I do to help support him? And what can I do, you know, to serve him. So, and even if it's not like something he needs done, you know, what can I do to show my love to him? And yeah, so I think that's different. It's deeper, and I think about his needs way more than I ever thought that I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were raised with the whole, or not even raised, but that's just what society told us is,
Yeah.
I'm an independent woman. I take care of myself. I make my own money. I pay my own rent. And I can take care of myself. I don't need no man.
Yeah. Yeah.
The amount of times that I said that when I was dating Wyatt.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of crazy, and that kind of leads into the next thing I want to talk about is differences between worldly and godly marriage. We've been talking about it a lot already, but that is something that was different for me is being independent. You're no longer independent, and yeah, so you have to get used to you're not the leader of your life anymore.
Right.
And so when we had first started dating, I was very strong-headed. You know that about me.
Yes, you were.
And so I was very insistent of, you know, this is not a traditional relationship. You do not rule over me. We are 50-50. We make our decisions together. You know, you do not have final say. You're not better than I am. And like, I cringe saying all of that now, you know, because our relationship was 50-50 versus the man is the head. And to anyone listening that has a hard time stomaching that, it's just another pill to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, and you cannot walk out the true freedom and love that's in godly marriage without submitting to your husband. And submission is a hard word.
Yeah. It comes with a lot of connotations nowadays.
Yeah, 100%. And we decided we're going to do a whole nother episode on submission because there's so much to talk about there. I sat down for 15 minutes and wrote 2 pages of stuff that I want to talk about. So we don't have time for that in this episode, but I promise there'll be another one coming. So
don't get scared by that.
Yeah, don't get scared because it's not as like gruesome as you think it is.
Yeah, right. From just hearing the word.
Yeah.
Like that seems like such a bad thing nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yes. Spoiler alert, worldly submission and godly submission are 2 different things.
Yes.
Anyways, okay. What do you have for worldly versus godly marriage?
A worldly marriage, you're marrying for yourself and what your self-interests are and how you get ahead in life. Like, okay, worldly marriage, I'm going to marry this lawyer because he's going to be the one that brings the most money. He's smart. He's socially accepted. Yes. You know, like this is the expectations that my family has is to marry somebody smart and successful and like you feel like you've made it in life, right? Like, I guess that's how I view worldly marriage is if you're not getting married for God, then what are you getting married for? Your finances, your social status, and like coexistence, right?
The picket fence house.
Yes, exactly. Like keeping up with the Joneses, right? Yeah. So, and that's just a recipe for disaster. Like, I don't even, you can't even fathom the problems that would come up in that situation. Like, how many days do you have to live your life just being absolutely lost because that's not a real relationship?
Right, right.
Like, I just can't even imagine getting married not for God. I don't even know where to start with that. You know, like,
Yeah.
I think, obviously a godly marriage is just laid out so much differently than a worldly marriage. And if you're stuck in one of those, like, I just can't imagine how that would feel, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like if you're wondering if your marriage is right or not, or if you're like wondering if you should marry this person that you're with, if you're still single and dating,
like, you should just look at it through that lens. Like, why do you want to marry this person? Is it for your social status and your finances, or is it because you truly want to grow in your relationship with God through this marriage? Like, you guys are the mediums for God. Maybe that doesn't make sense. God will use you to further your spouse's relationship with him.
Yeah, you're a vessel for God.
Right, you're a vessel for God. So how are you and your spouse or your future spouse or whoever you think you want to marry, how are you guys going to serve God, and what is the purpose of your marriage? Right. Like, are you going to do the things that God wants you to do in a marriage? Right. Is that going to like be what the purpose of your marriage is?
Right.
You know? Right. I don't know. And sorry, just want to throw in there quick. Being unequally yoked. If you are a Christian and you're dating someone that is not a Christian, I would not advise getting married until that person accepts Jesus as their Lord and Savior, because um it's going to create so many problems. I mean, I think I can speak a little bit on what it's like to be in a worldly marriage, because that's kind of what we walked in for a while until we found God again.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting. I don't know how people do that their entire lives. I mean, it's me centered, and yeah, you get married because I mean, obviously we loved each other, so that's not to say that you don't have any love, right? It's not like you're just a robot. Um you love each other, but when you don't have a biblical foundation, like you said, it's laid out completely different. And I think that would be even harder if you want that biblical foundation and your spouse doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that would just create so many problems. So if you are really in love with a person and you feel like God has put it on your heart to be with this person forever, be patient and pray for them and ask other people to pray for them that they would find and accept Jesus, because um I, it's going to be so hard if they don't, and they might just not be the right person, unfortunately. But yeah, so, and if you are married and your spouse doesn't have God, that doesn't mean that they'll never have God.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that all hope is lost for your marriage and that you should just get a divorce right now.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying
Please
either.
don't do that.
But prayer is so powerful, even if you don't see it for a long time. This is random, but I was just reading in Jeremiah this morning about how God asked him to bury a loincloth, underwear, and then just leave it. And it was uh, implied that it was a long time later that God then asked him to go dig it up. He literally went to the river and buried it and hid it, and then was like, okay, God did what you said, and then months later came back to it. But I mean, how crazy is that he received this message through prayer to God to go bury his underwear by the river, and that's so ran without any further instruction at the moment. And I think that's the point too, is blind faith. And he just had to leave it like that, because then he went and dug it up and it was decomposed. So obviously it had been a long period of time that it had passed, but he didn't like lose faith and be like, oh well, God just told me to bury my underwear, and then
And
Now what am I gonna wear?
What am I supposed to do now? That's my only loincloth. Dang it.
Shoot.
Anyways, actually, I think it was a new one that he had to buy. Anyways, off on a tangent again.
it's the same thing with Noah building the ark. What crazy person builds this massive ark to fit all the animals on Earth in the middle of the desert?
Yeah.
You know? And to have that faith that is, you don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
But you know that God's calling you to do something. You know, you have to have faith that it will happen, and it will happen. And so it's the same thing if you are in a marriage where your spouse is not Christian. Know that if you keep praying for them, that prayer is so powerful, And if you have faith in it, it will happen because God chases everyone, every single person, even the Satanists, even the people that have turned their back on him time and again, he still chases down. And those will, yeah, God's chasing after them and they'll get found eventually.
Yeah. Be that vessel for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're there in that relationship for a reason.
Yeah.
So have faith that God will provide.
Yeah, 100%. And even, if they get upset with you for talking about God with them all the time, maybe it's just a point of tension in your marriage. You don't even have to talk about God to share God with people. And I do that a lot at work. Like, I don't think it's correct to push the Bible in people's faces, but people see that you live differently when you're a Christian in their example. Yeah, yeah. And they see that, like, that person just has a glow to them. That person is light. That person is at peace. Why are they at peace? Look,
Right. We have every right as a 20-year-old have more peace than I am.
yeah,
And with way more life. Sub found it.
right? Like, we have every reason in this world to not be peaceful. Look at so many distractions around us, our phones in our pocket 24/7. You can attribute anxiety and depression to everything that's happening in the world right now. The world is freaking crazy, but you have a peace when you're with God. And that confuses people
Very much out of habit.
Yeah. So be that light and, serve your husband, even if he's not godly. And we'll be like, where is this even coming from? Yeah, it must be that Bible thing.
Yeah. Guess I'll check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Man, I feel like we just scratched the surface.
So much. We could go for hours.
Yeah. Yeah. We really could. That's why we're doing another one.
There's already another one.
Well, yeah. Okay. We are
On to the last question.
Last question.
Share your best piece of marriage advice for everyone listening.
Best piece of marriage advice. I would say, I talked to Bradley about this one actually, because I was like, if you were on a podcast, just, by chance,
What would you
what
say?
would you say?
It can't be basic piece of advice.
We want something cool, right?
Yeah, obviously.
We came up with nothing cool. So
Dang it.
here we are. No, I would say for sure the biggest thing that has helped us is keep communicating. Like, communication is the biggest thing in a relationship. And it's like, we struggled with that a little bit at the beginning of our relationship, where like he's a very good person to like give advice and try to fix things, right? Like, I feel like that's a normal man thing. Sometimes it's not, but for me, I bottle things up. Like, I have a really hard time just speaking what's on my mind.
Yeah.
Like, if he doesn't load the dishwasher when he, puts his dishes on top of the counter or something, like, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm a bottler,
Yeah.
And then that it keeps building up and building up. And like, it's so important to just speak your mind. And if it's not the right moment, like, then make note of it in your head and go back to it later. Like, find a time that is good for you guys to talk about that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's very easy to like bottle up your emotions, not talk about anything, and then that's where your like big blowout issues come from. So I would say communication for sure. And also, I think there's a lot to say about talking about all of those big topics before you get married, and continue talking about them after, because people's views change on stuff, and it's good to stay on the same page as your partner.
Right.
Like, you need to reinforce those ideas and just make sure you're on the same page, especially when kids come along. I think that's even bigger, like, you need to make sure you're parenting in the same style.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so I would say definitely like talk about those big things. They're scary to talk about, and like, if you think that you're different than your spouse or your partner, it's really hard to bring up, because you're like, what if this turns into an argument, or what if like we don't agree on this and it's a huge thing for you? But it's so important to talk about it so it's out there, you know? And like, even if you don't agree on it, then you can both think about it and, you know, mull it over and come up with a conclusion. But
and that's so powerful because then you're working as a team. Like if you have me and Wyatt have had disagreements about some pretty big stuff. We kind of stepped into our new reawakened faith at slightly different times. They were pretty close, but our first conversations that we had, we just weren't understanding each other's perspectives. And I mean, what's bigger than faith, really? That's the main thing to disagree on, right? And so I just want to put it out there. You have to talk about it because it loses its power in your head when you talk about it. Like if you are disagreeing on, for example, whether or not to have kids, that might feel like it's a life-ending thing, but if you just talk about it and get it out there, and then that also gives you the chance to be like, okay, we're going to go to God about this because he knows what our plan is supposed to be, and we're going to pray for each other that if I'm in the wrong, open my eyes, and if he's in the wrong, open his eyes, and then your hearts will change. One of your hearts will change, you know, one or both. But yeah, so I think that's such a powerful thing because marriage is also, like we've been talking about this whole time, teamwork. And like the stronger of a team you feel like you are, the stronger your marriage is too, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, so yeah, talking about the big things even when it's hard, so important. And back to your communication point of bottling things up, that's so common for women.
Oh yeah, so easy to do.
And yeah, especially in our family, that's how we all are. Like I have vivid moments of our childhood when I would get so stressed out, like in high school when you're working one or two jobs and playing sports and doing college and high school and like trying to manage your dating life, and like it's a lot. And I just remember like just blowing up a couple times, you know, not necessarily at mom, but just she was there to listen. And like just all of a sudden everything just lets loose and you're bawling, and it's like a whole big thing, and it takes a while to recover from that. Like if you just deal with it as it comes. Me and Wyatt had this conversation lately of your emotional pain should be treated in the same way as your physical pain. So for example, like I have a headache today. Okay, I know that headache is because I haven't drank enough water, and here I am drinking coffee, but it's fine.
It's helping. It's mostly water.
Yeah, it's mostly water. Anyways, so like my headache is to me a sign that there's something wrong with my body. I know I'm either dehydrated or my muscles are tight or whatever, you know, all the different reasons you have a headache. Well, you shouldn't just pop a Tylenol to get rid of the headache. Like your body's trying to tell you something.
Right.
And so like, yes, take Tylenol for pain management after you've fixed the problem at its source, but emotional pain should be dealt with in the same manner. Like you are sad for a reason. You are angry for a reason. You're frustrated for a reason. Like don't just take that Tylenol by just bottling it up. Like you need to fix the problem at the source. So emotions are so important, and you can't have the good emotions without the bad emotions. So like, yeah, importance of not bottling up is so good.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from a place too of like in scripture it says do not be a nagging wife. And so for me it's where is that line of me being naggy and me just dealing with my emotions.
It's such a hard line because you don't want to be the complainer. You don't want to be, you know, the one that's just always like, this isn't right, that's not right. Like you want to be a positive person. You want to be the person for your husband that cheers him up, you know? And I think that's where a lot of that comes from is, well, if I tell you what I'm really feeling, or that you did something wrong or that hurt me, or, you know, you did something that now made a ton more work for me or something like that, you just feel like you're an inconvenience to that person, and that's not who you want to be in their life.
Right.
So it's really hard to just tell them when that stuff happens. But it's also like,
Right.
would they rather have that, or would they rather have like you as an emotional wreck for
Right.
like a week or something,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a hard line for sure. It's,
Yeah.
you know, there is a point where you can just be a complainer or be a
Right.
negative person.
Right.
Like we've both been through stages of doing that where, you know, every little thing that goes wrong, you're just like, this is the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of growing up and stuff too. But
Yeah.
a lot of people hold on to that, and
Yeah.
that's their personality.
Yeah.
But there's, I would say, majority of people probably do the opposite and just don't let it be heard.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if they do complain, it's not about their emotions. It's about annoying stuff that happened. I mean, that's what I used to do. Like,
yeah.
Wyatt straight up told me when we first started dating, he was like, "Why is she so much of a complainer?" Oh no. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
But okay, so let's talk about this practically. Where do you try and draw the line, or how do you know that you've crossed from talking about your feelings and being open versus when you turn into that nagging wife?
I feel like it's different for the situation that you're in, you know, but like I would say maybe a good example is like how you're feeling that day. Like say, okay, you woke up with a headache and then you fixed it and you're feeling better. And then your husband comes home and you're like, gosh, I had the worst headache this morning and now my whole day is ruined, and you know, like I've just been in such a bad mood all day long and it's just, you know, blah blah blah, whatever. Or you could just be like, yeah, like I woke up with a pretty bad headache this morning, but I'm doing great now. Like I have gotten so much done and whatever. It's like you can still share that piece of information, but it doesn't have to be what like such a negative topic and like consume your conversation with them, you know?
Yeah.
But
That's so good.
I guess that's like obviously can translate into so many different things, like, you know, chores or, you know, whatever, something that they said that is hurting you. Like, you know, tell them this is not something that I want to see. Please fix it and then move on, you know? Like it doesn't have to be like this big downward spiral of ending up at a point where you're like, do you even love me anymore? You know? Like sometimes little things are just little things. And it's okay to just bring them up and move on.
Yeah. Don't need to beat a dead horse. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's so good. And with your example of the headache, sometimes I find myself, just being completely, totally honest, I find myself being that person so that I get sympathy.
Yeah, get
like,
attention.
That's human nature, is
to
to be like, oh, let me share about the hard parts of my day so they realize that, you know, I had a rough day and that, you know, they'll then be there to comfort me. But the reality is they'll still comfort you without you having to be complaining about it. You know? Like why it's still, if I go to him and I'm like, oh, I had a headache this morning, but so much better, you know, like redeem my day, he'd be like, oh, I'm so proud of you, like so glad you don't have a headache, and like give me a hug, whatever. And so like if you're stuck in that cycle of trying to find sympathy from your spouse, like maybe it's just also a conversation you need to have with them of like, hey, when I have rough days like this, I still need your support even if I'm feeling better by the time that you come home.
Right.
Like I need to feel emotionally supported. I don't know.
And and like talk to them about how they can make you feel emotionally supportive.
Yeah.
Because that was a big learning curve in our relationship as well, was Bradley did not know how to like show me the things that I needed to be shown, you know? Like that's just not a relationship that you have before a serious dating relationship or a marriage, you know?
Right.
Like how are they supposed to know how to comfort you? How are they supposed to know what you need. Every person is different, you
Right.
know? So
Right.
even if they were in a 10-year relationship before you're going to have different needs than the person before, you
Right.
know? So that conversation is hard because as a woman, I think you think like, I'm making this so obvious what I need.
Mm-hmm.
I'm complaining over and over again
Yeah.
because I want you to tell me that it's going to be okay and give me a hug and do all the things or whatever you need in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know that that's what you're trying to tell them.
Right.
Guys can be kind of dumb sometimes when it comes to emotional. Like, women are way more emotional creatures than
Yeah.
a man is.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to straight up be like, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like things that you can do when I'm in this state of mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I had to do that with Bradley. I know Melissa had to do that.
Yeah.
Our other sister. Like,
I had to do that too.
yeah. I think that's just like, you know, like, hey, this is a really sad time in my life. I can't just have you like moving on about your day like normal, you know? Like, I need you to come home and check in with me mentally, you know? And when like me and Bradley have had that conversation, like a death in the family, like what I would need in that situation is so different than him. Like Bradley, his grandpa passed away when we were dating. And I was like, we were kind of running over that situation a while back now, but I was like, how did I like do in that situation as a partner, like a supportive role for you? Like, did I do the things that you needed me to do? Which is also communication, really good, healthy thing. Like, run back over the problem after it's not a problem anymore
100%.
so that you can get real feedback. It's because when you're in the moment, it's not going to be, it's going to be emotionally charged.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like watching game footage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You watch your highlight reel after. But
or the non-highlight reel.
Or the non, actually, yeah, that's the more important one is the film that no one should ever want to see again.
Yeah.
But
anyways.
yeah, we were talking about that and he's like, you know, I think, I was saying like, I need you to constantly check in with me. If someone died in my family that was important to me, like, I would be thinking about it 24/7. Like, that's never going to leave my mind. I'm going to always be like thinking about that person and how do I get through this stage of grief. And, you know, it's like a huge thing in my head. That's all that's going to be going on in there, you know? And so like, I would need you to just like be there for me emotionally and like stop your day and talk to me for an hour if that's what it takes, because it probably will, you know, like I need that, emotional check-in, I guess.
Yeah.
And then for him, I was like, I didn't do that with you as much, like, because he never brought it up, you know? So when his grandpa passed away, it was like, I would check in with him about it every once in a while. And then, you know, it just kept getting vaguer and vaguer responses from him, you know, where it's like, yeah, no, it's fine, you know? Yeah. And like almost a little bit like, okay, this is like a subject I don't want to talk about anymore, you know? Yeah. And that was something for him where he's like, if someone dies that's important to me, like, of course we're going to have to talk about it. Like, I might have one emotional conversation with you about it. And then, like, I'm over it. Like, I want to put it out of my mind. Like, I want to remember that person in the way that I want to remember that person. And, like, I'll bring them up in stories or whatever. But, like, it's not something I want to sit and mull over because it's going to make me more sad. Right. And I think that's, like, probably also a typical guy's mindset is just like, you know, he's like, I deal with it on my own more than I would like want you to be a part of that. Yeah. He's like, also as a man, I think I just like, I process things a little differently. Yeah. He's like, I think I process them, you know, a little bit slower. It doesn't like hit me as hard as it does you right away, you know, and it's like, it's those like 20-hour drives in the tractor that I'm thinking about it. And like, and that's okay. Like, I just need to be in my own head about it. Yeah. And I'm like, if you let me into my own head, put me into the loony bin after like 2 days because
be a hot mess.
it would not be good. Yeah. So, yeah, you know, there's differences in how you can emotionally be there for each other. And I think it's really important to tell each other those things straight up. Like, your hints aren't going to work.
Right. Yeah.
Like the amount of times I've tried to drop hints for months.
Yeah.
Like months of your life, you are thinking about one little thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have just said it, you could have had that support that you needed.
Right. Right.
So,
and that does not make you any less of a couple, and it does not make you any less of a husband or a wife for just telling them exactly what you want and telling them exactly how to comfort you. Like, you might not know, but more than likely you have an idea of at least one thing that your spouse could do to comfort you.
Right.
You know, like after a tough day, I just need a good long hug, and then, you know, if I need to talk about it, we'll talk about it. If we need to pray about it together, we'll pray about it together. But like, I've literally, like you were saying before, sat down with Wyatt and been like, okay, if this happens, I need this, 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 and this from you. Like, I need a hug. I need you to ask me about it. I need you to probe me for questions. I need you to, like, encourage me to go back to God with this. Like, this is exactly what I need. And he was so thankful for that, because he didn't know what to do.
Right.
You know?
They're just as lost
Yeah.
as you are. Like, they want to help you.
Right.
That's not, you know, they love you. They want to help you. They just are like, I'm going to be silent because I have absolutely no clue what to do in this situation. Like, do you want me to talk about something else? Here, guess what happened on my day at work? This will take your mind off of it.
Right.
Like,
but that's not
oh my
what
gosh,
you need.
that is not what you need as a girl, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe some girls do, but not me.
Yeah. Well, and then if they change the subject, you know, in their mind, they're thinking that's what I would want. But then in our minds, I'm like, are you just avoiding talking about this with me? Like,
or
do you
you're
not
just
care?
minimizing it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that's like, he obviously just doesn't even care that this is important to me.
Right.
Like, I literally just brought this up and was tearing up, and you're like, change the subject.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that's how guys are with each other, you know? But yeah.
Yeah.
It minimizes it for the girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. And also, sometimes I don't know what I need.
Yeah.
In a situation, and that's so hard because, for example, when I get annoyed, I have a tendency to get so annoyed at things. And
really? This is huge news to
I
me.
know. You never noticed that about me?
Crazy.
But yeah, so I have a tendency to get annoyed, and I mean, yeah, like Wyatt gets mad, I get annoyed. It's just the equal. Yeah, it's the equality to me, to someone having anger issues is me having annoyance issues. So, I mean, like that fire, when you get super angry, you feel like that fire in your chest, you know, and it feels uncontrollable. I get like that annoyance, and not just at Wyatt. It doesn't happen with Wyatt that much, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But with other people too. And sometimes I just don't know what I need in that moment. Like, I'm not even really sure if I want him to just let me work through that, or if I want him to try and talk through it with me. Like, some of it isn't just this is what I need every single time. Some of it is I don't really know what I need, and you might have to try a couple things, and I'm sorry I don't have the answer for you.
Yeah.
And also, I think you get more emotionally intelligent as you like start the journey of appreciating your emotions and learning how to nurture them so that they help you, which is their intention. Like, you don't just have emotions for no reason. So I think that's part of it too. And I think as I've gotten deeper into my Bible study and my faith, then I learn how to deal with my emotions more, because the Bible talks about being annoyed and being upset and jealous. Like, they tackle all of these big emotions that honestly I didn't know how to deal with, and sometimes still don't.
Right.
But yeah,
takes time to build that response.
Yeah.
The correct response that you want to that, because in the moment you don't feel like responding in a godly way. You know, you're like, I'm super annoyed, let me smash something or whatever, you know, whatever you think feels right in the moment is probably not what God would have done, you know? So it's good to keep reiterating that, like, reading it in the Bible and then making that your process in your mind. But it's
Right.
also hard to identify, like, wow, I am really annoyed right now.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? This.
Yeah. Yeah.
So recognizing your emotions is step one.
Yeah. Honestly.
It's hard to do.
Yeah. Just being like, okay, let me completely take my emotion out of my emotion.
Yeah.
And ask myself, why am I feeling this emotion? And not in the sense of, why am I so sad right now? Ugh. Like, just being frustrated at yourself. Be like, no, okay, just pause, time out. What happened that made me so sad today? And then you identify it and you're like, okay, well, I woke up with a headache, or I woke up and I scrolled for 2 hours. Well, like, okay, now I know that I can't do that anymore. So I'm going to set personal, like, restrictions on myself. So I can't do those things that push me into this. And then you have power over that emotion too. And then you use that emotion for what it was meant for.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's so powerful. Man, that was a good one.
It was a good one. We go on so many tangents. This started with advice, marriage advice.
Yeah. Then
That was only one of them I have, but if you want me to continue, I can.
yeah, okay, so you talked about communication, bottling up emotions, and talking about the big stuff. Basically, in a
And then we
nutshell.
kind of segued into tell your partner what you need.
Right. Yeah.
That's also, I feel like that in itself is a huge piece of marriage advice.
Yeah.
Like, write your partner a list.
Yeah.
Try this, this, and this. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, you're on your own, buddy.
It's like
I don't know.
a flow chart. Did Lily get angry when you asked her if everything was okay? Yes. Okay, try this.
Obviously, she's not okay. Try this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
But
really should have a flow chart. I'm going to start one. I'm going to start a flow chart.
that's Lily's resource in the description.
Yeah.
It's a flow chart for husbands.
Flow chart for husband. The typical flow chart of a woman's brain. Honestly.
Oh gosh.
I can't
don't
even
know.
begin on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do? What is your plan of action when you're like, when you feel overpowered by your emotions? What do you do?
Like, specifically with Bradley.
I mean, yeah, let's keep it in the context of marriage, probably.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Since that's what the podcast is about.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, big emotions. Sometimes they sneak up on you.
Yeah, they do.
I feel like my big thing, if I'm feeling a huge emotion, is to let yourself feel it. Like, sometimes I feel like in the past I've tried to suppress it, and then it draws it out longer for me. Like, if I'm like, I'm so sad right now, but I'm not gonna cry because I have this and this going on, or whatever. I'm just like not in the mood, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just feel it. There's been times where it's usually the nighttime because I'm a bottler.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is bottled up for the whole day probably, or maybe the week, or maybe the month, or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
I'm working on it, okay? It's a work in process. Work in progress.
Yeah.
But it's usually the end of the day. Also, being pregnant, hormones, oh man, let me tell you, the sad hormones for me.
Oh, yeah.
But
The dog videos.
the dog videos get you, man. No more Sarah Palin or whatever. I don't know. No, that's the politician. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Whoever that
her
is.
name?
I thought it was Sarah something. Sarah Palin's the politician, though. That's not right.
I don't know. It doesn't
Sarah
sound
something.
quite right.
I don't know. We'll look it up later.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways.
letting those emotions out, I think, is a huge step one.
Yeah.
Like, there's been so many nights where I, like, try to, my, like, shower time, you know, I take super long showers. This
So
is
comforting.
Bradley's number one complaint about his wife is, like, she'll be in the shower for 2 hours.
I don't think I've talked to Brad one time without him.
Yeah, he brings it up all the time.
How
And
long
I'm like,
showers you take?
you know, this is my coping mechanism. So you can just shut right up. Like, you know, this is my time that I need to go through my emotional distress.
Sort it all out.
Sort it all out,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, whatever. That's one of my coping mechanisms. But for the big, I'm still off topic. So, okay. I go into crawl into bed, you know, and I'm like so sad. Sometimes you just have to bawl. Like there's been so many times where I'm just like bawling and I can't even speak. Like it's just coming out.
Yeah.
And like Bradley knows that it just has to come out for a little bit. And like he'll always like try. He'll be like, just tell me like what's wrong, you know, like, or like what happened, what did I do, or what did this or whatever, you know. And it's like, and then I just continue bawling and not saying anything. He's like, okay, this is what she needs right now, is just like let her lay on me and like give her a hug and just let her bawl for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's what she needs.
Yeah.
And like, you know, telling me that he's not asleep every once in a while is a great thing. But
husbands, please don't fall asleep.
Please don't fall asleep
when your wife is crying in your arms. For the love of Jesus, do not fall asleep.
You will wake up with a black eye about 20 minutes later. No, he's never fallen asleep.
That's good.
You know, just like being there, just being a presence. Like you're not just gonna sit in your bed and bawl your eyes out by yourself for 20 minutes. I guess I've done that too, but you know, it's easier to bawl with your husband for some reason. Yeah. It's just like another person there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like feel it. Like let yourself do that because like I feel especially at the beginning of our relationship, it was really hard to do that. It's really hard to be vulnerable like that in front of somebody that you're just like getting to know. You know, like there's so many stereotypes that come along with that, with like just, oh my gosh, she's like a crazy lady, like emotional wreck, you know? Yeah. Like I'm not one to cry all the time, but you know,
we're supposed to cry.
Yeah, you're supposed to cry. But anyways, let it out. Or if you're really happy, like do whatever you need to do that makes you super, like if you need to belt Alicia Keys off the top of your lungs, like go for it. You know,
you do your happy song.
I don't know. Not really. She doesn't sing that happy stuff. She doesn't really sing a lot of happy stuff.
I don't think so.
But sometimes you just have to have a good singing session, you know? Even if it's not happy.
Yeah.
Just like,
that's fair.
You're just yelling out some stuff.
That's fair.
But probably should be worship songs. It's just, you know, sometimes Alicia Keys just hits you right in the heart. But
that's fair.
Yeah.
Reaching for something in the distance. That's...
I don't think that's Alicia Keys.
No, that's not Alicia Keys, but... Skin. Yeah, that's such a good song.
Yeah, that is a good song.
There's nothing that makes you like smile more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
But
anyways. Yeah, I would say feel your emotions.
We might have to cut that part out.
Yeah, we might have to cut. We're not going to go viral for our singing.
I mean, maybe they'd be like, those chicks need help.
They'd be like, send them straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Okay. Anyways. Stay on track.
Yes, stay on track. Feel your emotions. Yeah. Let it out. Like, do the things that your body's telling you to do. God. She can't keep it together, folks. She can't take anything seriously.
Okay.
Feel your emotions, though. Let it out.
My emotions are...
If you need to giggle, just giggle.
Giggly.
Just giggly.
I spilled it on my hair.
Now they're going to know it's not curled. They didn't notice before. Okay. Cut.
Okay. Feel your emotions.
Yes. Feel your emotions. That took a long time to explain, but feel your emotions.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I feel like I need to take a step back then. Like, okay, that was crazy. Like, gather your thoughts a little bit, you know? Try and figure out, like you were saying, figure out what's making you sad or what's making you happy. Like, find that, like, knowledge inside of your head before you start speaking.
Right.
Because I've done that so many times with Bradley where I'll, like, be bawling, and then the only thing I can come up with is, like, the smallest thing that really isn't what I'm crying about, but, like, it's just what came to my head first. And then, like, we spend a bunch of time talking about that. And I'm like, that's not actually what I wanted to talk about. Like, now I'm just annoyed that we're talking about the wrong thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, like, try to gather your thoughts for, even if it's just, like, a couple seconds or a couple minutes, you know? Like, what is your main problem here? So that we can talk about that. Because, you know, now your husband or your spouse in that moment is like, okay, let's get down to, like, the real problem. And when you bring that up, it's like, okay, so what's the real problem in that tiny little thing then? And it might not be what the real problem is, you know?
Right.
And then you're like, well, now I have to explain my way out of this one before I can get back to what the real thing is.
Right.
Or you just straight up tell them that. That's
Right.
also a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Because
be like, wait, I might have had that wrong.
That was not what I was mad about,
Yeah.
or not what I was sad about, or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, try to gather your thoughts for like 2 seconds. It's helpful.
Yeah.
And then just talk through it, you know?
Yeah.
I guess we're talking more about bad emotions, but the good ones too. Like, just communicate that with your partner in the best way that works for you guys, because everyone has different communication styles. It's not going to be the same with any two people, you know? So find that works for you, and then work through that problem in that way.
Right.
You know, like, this was my problem. This is how it made me feel. Like, say, like, the dishwasher example, because we've used it a few times now. Like, you didn't put your dishes in the dishwasher, and that's what made me mad. This is why it made me mad. Like, I feel like you don't appreciate the work that I put in, and don't recognize the work that I put in, because you're just, like, throwing your crap all over it, you know?
It's
like,
always deeper.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I just, like, sterilized the countertops and did this, and like, it took my whole day to, like, get the house back in order, and then you just come home and it feels super disrespectful to me that you're just, like, not caring about any of that stuff.
Right.
So, like, it might be the dish that sent me over the edge, but, like, really, I feel super frustrated and annoyed because I feel like you're not respecting me.
Right.
So, like, make the connection between the action and the emotion for them.
Right.
Like, I am feeling sad and mad and annoyed and depressed and whatever.
Right.
So that they know, okay, that's what my action does.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then talk about it. Like, then come up with a real solution on how to fix that problem, and, you know, give him a chance to apologize, or, like, whatever. And take that apology. They probably don't realize what they're doing. I don't think they ever really do, but, you know, or, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just, like, it's really important to, like, take that second, feel the emotion, take the second to figure out what you want to talk about, and then tell them why that problem made you feel the way it did.
Right. Yeah. Like, in therapy, they talk about peeling back the layers of an onion to get to the root cause.
Yep.
Like, okay, the outside layer is your feeling, your reaction to what happened, and then ask yourself, okay, why am I feeling frustrated? Well, it's not just because you didn't put his dishwasher, it's because I feel disrespected. Okay, well, that's the core issue. And then, are you feeling disrespected in other areas of your marriage too? Like, is this just a small thing that just pertains to this one situation, or is this something that you're constantly feeling, and that's why it was even more of a problem, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, and I think that's also another thing I want to talk about is listening versus fixing. Like, people always talk about sometimes there's times to listen and sometimes there's times to fix. But honestly, I think it's a combination of both most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just, okay, I told you that I'm feeling sad. I need you to listen and not say anything the whole entire conversation. But no, at first I need you to listen and not try and fix it immediately when I'm bawling my eyes out. Like,
let me get it out.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. Listen, let me feel my emotion, like you said, and then transition into the part of the conversation where you're in the fixing mode now, because
something that's helping the situation, not just being unproductive and crying your eyes out.
Yeah. Like, there's a point, you should feel your emotions 100%, but there's a point where you have to be like, okay, I've felt this emotion, now let's move into the productive part of the conversation and make this better.
Right.
Because just feeling your emotion isn't going to make it better.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
You have to problem solve too, but don't problem solve too early.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've done that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to do because while you're bawling for 20 minutes, they're thinking up all these things, you know,
Yeah.
like this and this and this and this and this and this,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, this could fix it.
Yeah.
And you're just like stuck in the point where there's no thoughts going through your head. You just know
Right.
you're sad.
Right.
And then they meet you with this, like, here's a 10-page essay about
Right.
what I've been thinking about for the past 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I haven't even started to think about that. Like, just give
Yeah.
me a second
Yeah.
to figure out what is truly going on here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that applies to so much. Like, you want to fix things for your spouse. You want to fix things for your kids. You want to fix things for your friends, your siblings. Like, you want to help people. That is the core reason why you're trying to be a fix-it person.
Right.
But at some point, you have to actually ask yourself, am I fixing the problem that they want to be fixed? Because sometimes when Wyatt's going through an emotion and I have a solution for him, it's not even what he wants fixed, you know? And so, like you said, you meet him with a 10-page essay, but it's on the wrong topic because you haven't asked them, what do you need help figuring out?
Right.
So I think it, like, define the problem, and that helps. And that fix-it power is so strong and a good skill to have, but not when it's ahead of its time, you know,
Yeah.
not when you don't know what you're trying to fix yet.
Right.
Then it does more harm than good.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have advice?
Yes. Okay. So I was randomly doing my Bible study and I came across this verse, and it isn't directly applied to marriage in the Bible. It's actually talking about Christian to Christian, but I think it beautifully applies to marriage too, so I'll just read it first. It's Ephesians chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. Always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. Make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace. There's so much in there.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so being, like, having that humble and gentle attitude, like we talked about in the beginning of this episode, like being that loving, gentle, patient wife, even if you don't feel like that's your personality. You know, when I first started getting back into my Bible study, I'm like, I'm just not that soft girl personality. But the more that I lean into it, the more I'm like, oh man, yeah, that's what being feminine is, you know? It's not what they've chalked up feminism to be nowadays. Like, I believe every woman has a part of them that is that soft, gentle, humble, caring, loving person.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it's a little overrated that some people just are like, oh, that's not my personality. Like, I think that's built into all women everywhere. But yeah, so that part of it, being patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love, that kind of unlocked a revelation for me of sometimes I'm like, why can't he just be perfect? And why can't he just do the things that I really want him to do? And that I know he wants to please me, so why can't he please me? You know? But it's like, instead of just focusing on making your husband perfect, focus on, like, giving him room to breathe and learn. And you look at God when he, what's the word I'm looking for? When he is disappointed with you, he doesn't just slap you on the wrist and be like, oh, what are you doing? Like, you were not supposed to do that. I told you not to do this. I've shown you not to do this, and yet you still do it. Like, yes, he's disappointed with us, but he doesn't just make you feel that guilt and that shame.
Like you're 100% failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so the reason that we can, like, come back from disappointing him is because he is like, it's okay. I know that you're going to make mistakes. I know that you you're gonna have faults. Like, you're a human being, and that's okay. Now we just work on it to make it better. And like, I think that beautifully applies to parenting too. Like, obviously I'm not a parent yet, but if you can make room for your children's faults, then they're going to be able to grow, and they're not just going to be afraid to disappoint you, because when you're operating out of fear, that is so stressful and not like sustainable at all.
Right.
Like, when you're constantly feeling like you're stepping on eggshells with your spouse and scared to mess up because they're going to yell at you or be disappointed, like, that's not healthy and that's not sustainable. So, yeah.
I feel like you tend to mess up more, actually, when you're, like, walking on eggshells around each other. It's like, you embarrass yourself more often. You do things that you would never normally do. You know, like, I feel like things get a lot worse when you're not comfortable.
Right. 100%. Yeah, it's the comfortability that then allows you to just be you. And so, yeah, I think that you make allowance for each other's faults. We know that we're supposed to be patient with each other, but why? Because of your love. Like, if you love your husband, if you love your wife, you will allow them to make mistakes. And so every time that I want to get upset for Wyatt not loading the dishwasher, I have to remind myself, like, okay, it's okay. My love overpowers his faults. Like, this is the base of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then make every effort to keep yourselves united in the spirit. Combining your faith life is so important, and you shouldn't just do that with anyone that you're dating. Like, you should not be praying together and studying the Bible together and doing all those things if you're not serious about that person, or if you're not thinking about marriage. Like, binding yourselves in the spirit, it's just like having sex. Like, it's a soul tie, and we've talked about, like, being intimate. Like, sex and prayer is so intimate, both of them, like, equally as intimate. And so you have to take your prayer life as seriously as your sex life. Like, make time, you know. If your rule of thumb is you have sex twice a week, you better be praying together twice a week too. Like, take that seriously, because that's where you go against the devil. That's where you go to war. That's where you fight for your marriage. That's where you're intimate together. Like, that should be just as important as sex, I think, in a marriage.
It's harder to, like, put on a front burner, because it's not like, not everyone has that huge desire for it.
Right.
But once you start doing it, then you desire it more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, like, the starting it is the big part.
Yeah.
I feel like, for a lot of people.
Especially because there's such a big barrier to start, because it's awkward.
Yeah.
And you want to put your best foot forward, and you want to come off sounding intelligent, and you want to, you know, be like, oh, I have a great relationship with God. Let me show you it. But that's so hard to just start doing.
Yeah. It's another one of those, like, comfortability things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's gonna probably not be the best at the beginning. Just like sex.
Yeah. Right.
Probably not gonna be the best the first time.
Like,
you know, just,
you have to learn about each other. It's the same thing. You have to get comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So bind yourselves together in the spirit, and bind yourselves together with peace. Obviously, you're going to have disagreements, but on the days when you don't have disagreements, I hope that it's a peaceful atmosphere. It's not walking on eggshells. It's not chaos in the home. It's not, you're so busy you don't have time to just be peaceful together.
Right.
Like, that's something that we're kind of walking through right now, is just being so busy that we don't have peace. But the one thing that's helping is not working on Sundays, and not only just not working our jobs, but not doing laundry all day, not mowing the lawn, not doing dishes. Like, we are together. We pray together. We do Bible study together. We do devotions together. We go on a walk. Like, just do peaceful activities. Like, not saying you just have to sit on the couch all day and talk about God, but like, just find ways to commune in peace together. Like, that's, I don't know,
bring that
huge.
calmness back to your life
Yeah.
for just today.
Yeah. And even if you are super busy, I can attest to it right now. Like, we've got 4 jobs going on, and we've got a billion other things happening. Like, it's the start of summer, there's parties and weddings, and there's always things to do, but like, you have to trust God with your time. And even if you don't believe that you can trust him with a whole day, that's fine. Start with an hour.
Yeah.
Like, start with the first hour of your Sunday is just you and God, you know, and somehow in a supernatural way, your time works out. Like, somehow we've been able to keep up with everything and devote an entire day to doing essentially no work.
Yeah.
Right? Not like you're doing nothing, you're just not doing work.
Yeah.
Like, and that was something that we never really practiced growing up, you know, but like, so that's something you have to start, just like baby steps. Trust God with your time. Like, trust God with everything. We're called to trust God with our money. Like, you should be tithing, you know, and that's an act of trust, to give him your first 10% and trust that the other 90% will somehow equate to 100% of your costs.
Right. Yeah. The math doesn't math.
No, it doesn't.
Head. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's supernatural. And it's the same thing with time. And it's the same thing with your relationship. Like, trusting God over all else will bring you that peace. Yeah. I think that's a great spot to end, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, peace is everything in a marriage, I think, and that's what marriage is about, deepening your faith so that you can find ultimate peace on earth as much as we can without being with Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you would just pray with us for a quick minute here. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for each and every person that is tuning in today and taking a step to better their marriage or their future marriage, or, you know, just trying to deepen their faith life as well. Lord, I ask that you would pour blessings over each and every person listening and watching today. I ask that you would let this reach as many people that need to hear it. And Lord, I just ask for you to come into each one of our marriages and work your peace in our marriages, Lord. We all need a peacemaker, and you are the ultimate peacemaker. And Lord, I pray over every couple that might feel like it's the end right now. I ask that you would bring them blessings and peace and understanding to each other so that they can have these hard conversations without having to worry about whether it's the end. Lord, we know that you are the ultimate physician, physically and spiritually, emotionally, in our relationships. So please do your work in our lives, Lord. And I pray over all the marriages right now that are struggling for any number of reasons, any number of attacks that are being thrown at them from the enemy, because we know that marriage is obviously something that the devil would love to not exist. So we ask you to strengthen us in our faith in you and in our faith in each other so that we can become such a strong team with such a solid foundation. We love you so much, Lord, and thank you for being with us always and caring about us and loving us so much. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Bye, guys. I'll see you on the next one.